Have you learned a lot today from our panelists and speakers? Again, hopefully every story is a gift, but you are all gifters. That's why I call it GifterX Talks. So as I said to you earlier, I introduced briefly about Moishe. Imagine you get to meet the man who's shaping Miami. He literally is so inspiring for me because when you meet a lot of developers, which I have, you always talk about the buildings and how many square footage. But what I really admire about Moishe, he talks about community and heart and culture, and that inspires me in fashion. So are you ready? We're gonna actually start a little earlier. Is that okay, Moishe? Okay. So again, I've met a lot of inspiring people in my life, but to know that when I first moved to Miami, I knew that Wynwood was a cool area. Who likes hanging on Wynwood? Who's been to Mana Wynwood? Who's been to Three Point? That's his creation, his vision, and now he's building the whole thing out for Flagler as well. He's literally redeveloping the whole Flagler district. He owns over 80 properties. And the very namesake of this building is called Mana Commons, and that's Moishe Mana. This man literally grew up in Israel, came here in the 80s in New York City. At one point, he worked as a dishwasher, and yet he built a moving company, then started building real estate and creating a portfolio. And now, again, every time I see this man, I met him in Ibiza last year. But the true sign of a great story, I went to my first event almost 2 years ago here. And every time I met someone that worked in this community, they kept saying, do you know Moishe's story? Do you know Moishe's story? I'm like, no, tell me. And they all had this excitement. And that's what I hope all of you have. Like, imagine you share your story, or someone else shares your story to someone else, and they have this excitement. So though I met him last year in Ibiza, I've seen him around, and he's such a humble man for the success he's done and had. You'll see about like an art gallery, because he's supporting the people here. But I just love the fact that he's a man that has a vision to create a city that's lively. He wants to connect the Americas. There's over 1 billion people. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Moishe Mana to the stage, please. Adam, make that up. Thank you so much.
How are you? So much. How you doing? Good to see you.
I'm so grateful. Let's please give Moishe some love, please. Again, if you've lived in Miami and you've hung out in Wynwood, do we have the other microphone? Where's the other microphone? We don't have the other microphone here. Yeah, here. Thank you. Let's give Simone some love. She's our event director. And all of our staff, thank you so much. Are you all enjoying yourself? Okay, again. Imagine meeting a person that's shaping the city that we live in. Isn't that freaking cool? I mean, really. And so with you, Moishe, was it something that you grew up with in terms of you had this immense vision to create communities? Because I've read a lot of articles and met you over a few times, and you don't want to just build buildings. You want to build communities. Tell me what inspired you to really focus on the fashion, the art, and the community aspect of building.
Right. Okay, first of all, thank you, Christopher, for hosting me here. And thank you, everybody, for coming. And before we speak, I really want to know who I'm speaking with, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Okay. How many of you are from Miami? Okay. And out of town, I guess the rest coming? Okay, good. And how many of you in real estate business? Okay, how many of you in technology business? Okay, how many of you in other industries, fashion, art, entertainment? Okay, good. All right, and you, how many of you were born in America? Okay, so it's a big crowd. Usually, most of the crowd we speak with, they are really they were born in different countries, and because Miami is a very diversified culture, diversified nations, and a friend of mine lives in a building where 120 nations live in one building. I mean, it's incomprehensible.
In your building?
You know, but of course they're going to live in this neighborhood and work in the neighborhood as we build it up. So to the question, you know what? Everybody can come into a session and give you advice and what to do, what not to do. I can share some of the advices that contributed to my success. But we start usually people when they start, especially people with no money to say, and they want to succeed. They don't have big dreams in their head. You know, they have the dream of securing themselves, securing their families, making changes in the countries, and this what inspired me all along when I grew up in a poor neighborhood and in a very young age, I must say, in a very young age, I promised myself, and I'm going to inspire you here, okay? A little bit stories. I inspired myself. I really promised myself, not inspired. I promised myself that I'm not going to grow up like that, okay? And this is something that I promised myself in a young age, and from there, as I grew up, I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, and then I went to I was in integration kids in a neighborhood where they all look different than me because my background from my parents from Iraq and Middle East, and we went to live I went to school where the other people live. The tall, the blonde, the East Europe. So it was kind of even the language was different. But then I understood that we're poor. At the time when I lived, wherever I lived, I didn't know we're poor. So when I understood it, I said, okay, so I'm not going to be there. I'm going to leave and I'm going to be like them. And this is something that from a young age, and usually people, whether they have it or not, I do not know how it really had, you know, it's something that I had it in me. And sure enough, as I finished the high school, and the beginning was very difficult, and I did very well. I continued on, finished the army, and then I started really understanding politics and issues, and I did not agree with the Israeli government policies of the occupation. And I said, this place is not for me. I need to leave. And that's where I left. And I came to New York. At the time, there was no Google. There was no, really, first time I took an airplane actually in my life. I never seen a black man before. I never seen an Asian man before. And you're landing in the middle of a city, you don't know where you're going. I have $800 in my pocket. And I said to Mama, I'm not coming back. I'm leaving. And I said, I rather be a stranger in a foreign country than be a stranger in my own country. And I felt I need to go because I saw the movies, I saw what's New York, and I said, I want to be there. And that's where I want to make it.
So let's talk about that, right? You have a very strong sense of self-conviction, yes, in Israel. Come to the US, specifically in New York. Was it true that you literally used to sleep on park benches and one of your jobs was as a dishwasher?
That's very true. Not only dishwasher, pot washer, dishwasher. I had conviction. There's no questions. I'm not going back. I told my mother, I'm not coming back. It was with conviction. Not for one day or one night when I slept on the bench, I felt I'm poor. I was so excited about life. And, but you see, you know, two your questions and how building communities and this and that. And, you know, I tell people life is like an onion. You keep peeling it until you find the layers, the soft one, who you are, what you are, and what the best of you. And of course, the layers, the beginning was rough. I had rough, you know, pills at the beginning. I was tough, you know, and I never shared the stories, okay? And this is the first time I tell you. I tell my friend, my private friend. At the time when I started the moving company, when I started the moving company, it was all union, controlled by union, and the mob was controlling it, and threatened me to kill me, shooting at me several times. John Gotti, if somebody knows John Gotti, called me and I told him, come kill me, got it over with. And because I'm not your problem, because you're charging $55 for a man to push a dolly, you get $35 a man for computer. And every day I go home, I say my last day. I don't share it usually on the stage.
Thank you.
But I had conviction. That's why today I'm sharing it. And the stories driving, they were driving motorcycle and shooting and threats and what's not. And but that's it. I said I have no way to go back. And that was and in the last interview, somebody was asking me in a very like very personal questions, and then I came and I said at the time, it reminded me when I was getting noticed in New York City as the biggest moving companies and whatever we're doing. So what do I attribute my success? And I said some people from desperation, some people from inspiration. I had both. It was a nuclear. There was no way to go back. You know, I couldn't think that I would go get a job at Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or any other stuff. So when you had conviction, you have to go. Nobody was on the way. No dates, no restaurants, no dating, none of this stuff. I had a mission. And people in the young age, you know, I suggest all the time, young age, don't date, don't bother. Just go build a future. You know, if you don't have the money, don't go. You have nothing to offer. You know, this is simple. I didn't date because I felt like I'm not qualified enough to take a girl on a date because I don't have the money or the time to take her out. I'm not qualified. And that's what really happened.
But now you're very qualified, yes? I've seen some of the pictures.
I'm
It's good
making up.
taste, Moishe.
I'm making up for the past. I'm making up.
Again, he was so gracious, like I said. When you meet very successful people, sometimes they're not really nice. He was so kind when I first connected with his CEO. We met in Ibiza. He doesn't have to do that, right? So I appreciate his humility. But let's talk about that, right? You come to this country, you have this conviction. You build a moving company, but then you start recognizing, you know what? I'm going to start perhaps buying up real estate in New York and Miami. Let's talk about that journey because I really want our guests to understand, like, what are some of these paths you took? So clearly you have a great sense of conviction, but now, like, why real estate and why Miami, frankly?
Okay, so I started as a moving company in New York, and very natural from the moving, I started really philosophizing to myself, looking at the past big companies. What did they have? What is left from the big companies of the past? The storage. So I said, aha. So that's where I need to go, the storage. Research the storage, sure enough, I went to storage. I need storage, I need to buy buildings. And from there, I built the mini storage operation. And from there, I used to go, when I used to be a mover, move people into storages, and I see boxes, archive boxes. What is this for? So I go research what archive boxes, and I said, okay, this is even a better business. And at the time, it was chaotic. It was an industry chaos. Every time there's chaos, you come and you invent, you win. The same thing when in the moving business was chaos. The same thing because it was controlled by union. It was high pricing. And if you want to get this moving company, you have to have the high price. If not, you get some trucker that maybe shows up or not. And I can tell the story how it really came about. I built this big moving company, and it started with the marketing, the design of the truck. As I was having money, I was designing the truck and getting the body shop to build for me trucks like spaceship. And I thought it's the most sexy thing that I could see at the time, you know, a beautiful spaceship truck, you know. So, but then in the document industry was a big problem. There was no barcode. I learned about the barcode, and I was the first one really to implement the barcode business because it was to get a box for corporation. It was about $500 or $600 to get a box, and I went ahead and I found the barcode company. Today they became the biggest one in the industry, and I implemented the barcode, the same day delivery, 2 hours delivery, 4 hours delivery, and so forth. It was all very creative. Like every time I hit a wall, I learned how to go aside, through the windows, through the roof. I passed the wall. And this is something that you have to have when you have conviction, when you want to really do it. You have to do it. And also jumping from industry to industry to industry in the early stage, it's a very bad idea. You have to pick up industry, you have to go through it, and then later on, when you have enough, when you feel secure, you go and diversify to other industries. I did not jump from anything except what I did. And life leads you to the place where you're supposed to be. I always say the road is paved, you have to find it. And sure enough, I ended up in the meat packing. It was abandoned neighborhood, and I bought a mini storage, a building for a mini storage. And but real quick, I met somebody, and I was not. This is not the issue. I'm not afraid to try. I'm not afraid of failing. I can come tell you all the success stories you want, but there was also failing. I mean, there is no way of doing stuff without failing. But you have to learn how to fall and how to get up and how to continue. And life is full with obstacles. It's not a flat road. It's not a flat road. And I did it through trial and experience because I did not go to business school. And this is where the chart led me to the meat packing. And this guy met me in the club and he's suggesting to open studios for photographer. I said, why would photographer want to come to a studio? Little by little I learned and I said, okay, we do half a floor. Maximum, we're going to meet some girls, we're going to have a good time. And but it ended up to be the company, the building that changed the whole meat packing. Nine divisions was developed in this building. And I hired a team that I made them my partners, and they became to a point where 50-50 even. And I put the money, I put the whole thing, but as they succeeded, I increased the share. One of the last company we did, we have in New York, we have LA, and it's incredible company. One of the product we did, byproduct, was milk makeup. How many of you know milk makeup? Okay, so it became a big success. You know, people ask me, how did it become? I just came from Venezuela. Venezuela from all the countries. Oh, I was in Saudi Arabia. The people jump on this. How do you know about milk? Well, we love milk because, you know, it's a girly girl thing. I do not know what it is. But to ask me how, I said, listen, this is the Forrest Gump syndrome, I guess, where you do when it succeeds, you know. I mean, you have to try. And the team was confident and I supported it. They did a great job. And we ended up going public with it. So this is where you start diversifying and you get from your comfort zone, because I never saw it as a money, the importance of money. Money for me was always a vehicle. Always a vehicle. I never, even when I had money, even today, it's not my money. It's me to give it out. It's me to distribute. It's me to share. It's not my money. We don't take nothing with us, and sooner or later we go. And that's the way I look at it. And my father always used to say he'd rather give his money, although he didn't have money during his life, than after he leaves. So, and this is something that resonated inside me. So this is what this is part of our this is part of my DNA.
And so let's talk about Miami, right? Miami is such a beautiful city, and you've traveled all around the world. Why did you choose Miami as your base to say you want to connect the Americas as 1 billion people? Like, why Miami? You literally travel all around the world. You can be anywhere in the world, but why Miami specifically?
All right, so this is again part of the chart. You travel, you meet, you see, you create. And Miami is close to New York, and you come for vacation, and you go and you come back and so forth. And again, I came originally to Wynwood to build a facility for the document management. But really quick, I understood that Wynwood can represent a different story, totally different story. I was in one of these, I call it the victims of South Beach. We go out to the clubs and they try to charge us $5,000 a table, and which is not my DNA. It's not me. And it was really getting jaded, boring, harassment, what's not. Here we have a guy that visiting us from Milan today. His name is Mano. He was with me. And I told him, Mano, we are going to move. He used to be a promoting South Beach. I told him, Mano, we're going to move South Beach to Wynwood. He said, Moishe, you crazy? Why are you wasting your money? You're spending your money. I said, watch me. 5 to 10 years. 5 to 10 years. And I felt like Miami need a cultural hub. We have a long way to go to build culture still, although we are diversified city, but we do need a long way to go because traveling the world and see what culture and see the building and see, I mean, everything we're missing. And I felt like I can contribute to Miami much more than any other city. And I said, we're going to build the cultural hub of Miami, sustainable cultural hub. I assembled 45 acres. And people, to be honest, I brought very experienced real estate friends to invest, to do. They thought that I'm out of my mind. And I was buying it very cheap. And I assembled 45 acres. And I started doing the street art, the music event, the fashion event. I spent every year $2 million, $3 million a year just for the arts, for the music, for the fashion event, what's not, anything there is to do with culture, because I like to say that I build culture, I don't build buildings, okay? And buildings are building, but really important, the content of the neighborhood, the content of the buildings, and how they're using them and how it serves the purpose of the community. And that's why I started Wynwood, 45 acres, to make it a cultural hub of Miami. And I was setting my boots and people come and asking me for work. And I said, why? So, because Miami 2009 was a tourist destination, and the young people, they finish school and they run away. So I decided how I'm going to boost Miami business-wise. And I came with this great idea to build a global hub to facilitate the trade between the Far East, Latin America, and North America. And we got 10 million square feet okayed by the county at the west side of Wynwood without cannibalizing Wynwood, because we need to keep the culture, as I said. And then I start traveling the world, trying to connect people to Miami, to our project. If China, Vietnam, Latin America, and that's the way I got to experience the world as well. Then came Trump, and he stopped everything because America first, it was conflicting everything, what I said and what I was working for. And that's what happened. And then I pedaled back from this project. And you want me to continue?
Yeah, then what about the Flagler? I want to first ask more about.
I'm going to get Flagler and the purpose, and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you. So I pedaled back. I pedaled back at the time I was dealing with the WeWork folks and consulting them, because they started in my facility in the meat packing, Adam Neumann. And they were selling the idea of community technology, and this to come to my house many times. And I said, listen, guys, you're not community, and you are not technology. You are location-driven real estate, and you cannot do 100 buildings a year. It's culture, it's control, it's what's not. And at one point, I told them, listen, guys, we're going to go all if you want to build real community, it must be physical and digital. We have Facebook, we have Amazon, it's all digital, but we need physical. And that's why I told them, let's do Flagler, and they didn't want to do it. At one point, I told them, listen, leave my house, you're going to go all to jail, and I don't want to be part of any of this stuff. Then I came to Flagler, and I started buying buildings. And I had the money, I didn't have the money, I need to borrow whatever I need to do. You asked me today how I was able to assemble 80 buildings. I cannot tell you the story. We designed the street. I went to the mayors. I paid for the design. I designed the street with my team. I went to the mayors, and I raised the first $7 million for Jimenez, and then the rest was history. I raised about $35 to $40 million for the street, carbon stone walkable, and the idea was to build live, work, play neighborhood. The neighborhood, the original neighborhood where I grew up with, where you walk to work. This is where I grew up. My mom lived across the office of my mother was across the street, so she goes to the office back and forth during the day. It was the most comfortable thing to do. And that's where I said, okay, we're gonna do downtown, live, work, play kind of a neighborhood. And while I was doing all of this, I can tell you the next phase, how it dawned on me what we need to do really. Go ahead.
No, so I'm always curious about the inspiration behind it, right? Because I want our audience to understand. Like, so it just seems like nothing's ever this easy, right? Because there's always different iterations, right? But it seems like it's one thing to buy one building, but you had 45 acres. So do you feel that it's like, okay, you have an expert team, or based on your past decision-making skill sets, you know, okay, I trust my gut. But it's one thing to buy 1 acre or one building, but it's 45 acres. That's a huge vision, a huge risk. So when people are afraid to even like walk out of the street when it's not raining, what do you do personally? Is it more of a habit or that deep belief you have? Like what specific things do you feel, do you attribute to that? That level of chutzpah and that level like, wow, I'm gonna build at scale.
I'm a believer, and I go with my belief, and I go all the way in with my belief. And if I fail, I fail, but I believe in it and I want to do it. I went to Jersey City in New York City, outside of New York City, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes driving from the tunnel. And this was abandoned building. And I said, I'm going to assemble all this building and I'm going to create an art center. Because I used to move people to storage and move art to storage and see how, I said, this is a waste because you're moving it to storage, they like it, and this is, people cannot enjoy it, they cannot, just sitting in storage. So I said, I'm going to build something different that, other than just storage. And I assembled it, and I built the biggest art center in America where artists work, create, sell. I'm not going to tell you those story, but it is today, it's what they really help vitalize the downtown, the Jonah Square of Miami. Everybody start building buildings around me. We have the museums, the Whitney Museum. We got the largest art collections, Andy Warhol, $15 billion worth of art. And artists work in there, fashion designer work. When I go there, I say, oh, I cannot believe that this is what started with the vision. And want my executive, that for him, it's all formula money. He made with me a bet. It's not like this. It's not going to work out. I say, yes, it's going to work out. And that's exactly what happened. And it worked out more than even I thought. This is something that I believed in it, and I went with it. Same thing with Wynwood, and same thing what I'm doing today. And everything that you're doing, it's not a day or 2 days. You have to look at it in perspective, in always future. Somebody told me one time that he think I live in the future. And it's true, I live in the future. Constantly I live in the future. Everything I do, what's the end game? How it's going to end up? Where it's going to lead us? And I did it, and and this is what I came to Flagler Street. I came to Wynwood. I had conviction. We can build the cultural hub of Miami, and in the next 3 months will come some great news for Miami with what's coming up there, and it's going to be something that going to be all over the world. It's going to be told. It's going to be written all over the world. What's coming in this place? What should I call it? The cultural hub of Miami. I said at the beginning, and that's what is going to end up to be.
I don't know about you all, but I'm fascinated by this man's brain. So like you can say you have visions, right? But do you take 1 day to think about it, 3 days? Like let's say Bill Gates, he'll take like a whole week, he'll bring his books there. Like, what's your process of thinking? Is it like an ongoing thing, or you're more of like, you know what? You're constantly working at various things, see these moments, and you just jump on it? Or is it more of like, let me have a feeling? I walk into Wynwood the first time in 2000, whatever you're there, right? Is it like a feeling you have? Or is this over time, you marinate, think about this, and then, okay, after a certain, you're just like in it?
I had conviction. Again, I keep saying it. Even here downtown, the broker that
But how? Was it you walking there or you just, okay, Flagler is the next spot? It's like an inner conviction.
When I walked to Flagler, this was 12 o'clock at night, it was all dark, empty. And next day I meet the broker. Yeah, you know, she just started really in the brokerage. And she said, oh, Moishe, you know, you missed the train because now the prices went 3 times up. And I told her, Mika, tighten your belt. The party just beginning. It doesn't matter. We're going to do much better with it. And every deal that I've done with her, she did most of the deal, 95% of the deal, 98%. The deal that didn't come to her, always was a problem with it, somewhat. It was a karma issue. And I call her a slumdog millionaire. I made her a millionaire. Just doing it because she had loyalty and she really helped me put it all together. And we went building by building by building by building. How much do you want? 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 No question asked. It was a vision. I went for the vision. That's what we're going to do. I didn't negotiate. I didn't.
So talk about this vision. You love Hong Kong. My parents from Hong Kong. You're Hong Kong, yes? I read Hong Kong, yeah.
Yeah, I was in Hong Kong, but
No, so I read some articles where you saw Hong Kong as a great ideal city. And I'm curious, you have a vision for Miami. What are some cities that you look at in the world that you're like, you know what? I want to take a little bit of Milan, a little bit of Hong Kong, a little bit of Singapore. What are some things that you want to create this future? Because we're all part of this future, right? With you, we want to help build with you, grow with you. So are there cities that you've seen around the world that you're like, you know what? I want Miami to have that hub, but are there examples of places you've been to that allow you to be inspired that way for your vision?
okay, again, I wasn't as clever and smart from day one when I moved to Miami, and I got to know it, and I traveling the world and understanding the issues. I am solution provider. When there's a problem, I look for solution. I don't look for excuses. Traveling to Latin America and understanding Latin America, how fragmented it is, and how rich the continent. And I said, wait a minute, I've been in China, 1.5 billion people, 96. Once they opened the market, once they went into the capitalist system, with no time how China changed. I was in Poland 1990. I was in Dubai 2000. I saw changes, how things can change. Traveling to Latin America, and I saw how desperate and how poverty there is there. And I said, there must be a solution because it doesn't make sense, such rich countries with poor people. And especially when Trump showed up on the stage with America First and so forth, I said, closing your door doesn't make your home safe, and throwing your garbage out the window doesn't keep your home clean. We need to connect Latin America and North America to become one America. 1.1 billion people, that we can compete with China, 1.5 billion. We can compete with India, 1.5 billion. We are only 350 million, declining population. What's our chances in the next 20 years to continue to be the #1 economy? I think 0. How much technology we can create? How much we can create? Because you need the mass, you need the size of population, and if you create efficiency and conspiracy, not conspiracy, anyway, transparency, then you have a much strong economy. And not to be afraid. So lately, I put the whole manifesto, I put it on, in writing. I call it, it was the Monroe Doctrine from 1823, President of the United States, how divided Europe and the Americas. And there was 1823, it was Europe stay in Europe, and we stay in America, and you have no involvement in Latin America, and we have no involvement in. It was about territory and control. So I, being smart ass, I wrote it the Monroe Doctrine, and I put the whole how it can be done, and the stages has to be done. And it is we need to update it because the trade at the time was Europe. So it's not Europe anymore. Because from my point of view, the whole entire Western Hemisphere should be together economically. So I put a manifesto that it's economic, military, and human resources. So imagine we have 1.1 billion people economy that we can sell, I don't know, glasses. There's 1.5 billion people that can, manufacture should not be in Vietnam or in China. It should be right in next to us. And this thing I saw already 2014, early on, when I started seeing what China is doing. I was working in China, I had businesses in China, and I was trying to connect China, but at one point, China became a little bit more aggressive, and I backed off a little bit. And even I can share with you the story. 2016, I was in China with a delegation with the president of Panama. And it was a closed meeting like this, like here. And the idea was to build a whole colony on the canal, Chinese colony canal, with investment of billions of dollars. I was shaking. I couldn't believe. I said, where is America? What is going on? Because I saw early on maps of invasion, like really literally invasion of buying the seashores and buying this and buying that. To me, I was like very afraid. 2019, the president of Panama, a new president got elected. I went to him. I had 2 meetings with him. And I had the whole vision for Panama, which I probably will go back to try to share it. Miami, Panama should be the Western Hemisphere hub. And I told him, listen, if you think that you can be in Panama can be the Normandy show for the Chinese, you're wrong. America sleeping on the steering wheel now, but one day going to wake up. And do you know what they're going to do? They're going to take the canal away from you. It's not your canal. He said, what should I do? I said, cancel the agreement. And he canceled the agreement. At the time, they already had infrastructure. And a friend of mine bought some group from England, and they bought the asset, and the Chinese left over there. So the vision for Latin America, North America, it's just a matter of time. And I'm also talking about dollarization of Latin America. We have countries like Brazil. They're going with the BRICS, alternative coin to the dollar, with Russia and China. What is wrong with us here? It should be our economy here. We got here 700 million people, most of them poor people that you need to try to think how you can not only, it's not charity. America can be more rich if we do collaborate and not occupy. That's the way to do it, through partnership, Just imagine the European Union. European Union, with all the troubles they have, it's much better than it was each country by itself. God knows what would have happened today if each country was itself in Europe, if they did not have the European market and so for the euro. We have to think long term, and that's the way I set it forward. Collaboration, not occupation. And when I see Trump now, and I give him the credit for this, he woke up kind of, and he's talking to Canada, although he wants it to be 52 states, which there's no reason for them to be a 52 state. He's going to Mexico, fight the drug cartel. He's going to Venezuela. He's going to all kinds of countries in Argentina. Is giving them $40 billion. So I think they understand, they see part of the elephant, but they don't see the entire elephant. So I've been talking, I just came back from Venezuela. I can share with you about Venezuela and so forth. But people see part of the elephant or describe part of the elephant or this country or that country, but we're talking about the whole elephant. How we can create the economy of the future. I don't see any other way. This can be the stronger army if that's what you're worried about. We have 1.1 billion people.
So Moishe, let's talk about this collaboration and we'll end because I'm very respectful for your time, right? I said, hey, can you please come for 30 minutes? Are you enjoying this? Are you learning from Moishe? So collaboration on a macro scale, 1 billion people in Americas. But what about how we can collaborate? Like I said, I really am inspired by his vision because we all live here. So whether you're in Edgewater, Midtown, downtown, what do you think we can do to help you and support you? Because we live, I mean, most of us live here, right? So what do you want to hear from us? Because we are the people that are creating, even this community of GifterX thoughts, even like you literally, I read one of your things where it's like, you don't want to be known for building things. You want to be known for innovation and creativity. So what can we do to not just support your dream, because it is our dream too, right? That we're building it for us because we're together in this. So what do you think as different neighbors here? So we have countries you're talking about on a macro level, but what about for what we can do when we walk out of here? How can we continue this dream with you? Because I love this. I mean, are you loving this?
Yes. Anyway, so I tell you, it's not just talk in the air, okay? I took action, method to action. I formed and I tell you how and what. It's a big wagon. I mean, many horses. No one horse can pull this wagon. I took method to, how do you say it in English, to action. And I formed the organization called Manatech Organization, which I'm financing it. 95% of it I'm financing. This space last year we had 135 events. This year 250 events. And what the MAN organization purpose was to create I call it the technology infrastructure of Latin America from Miami. Because traveling around and meeting technology companies, even meeting them in Silicon Valley, nobody take it seriously. Nobody will go to Colombia or to Panama or to Chile to invest in technology. The only way, if I bring them, I said, to Miami, aggregated 700 million people. So we can create the future unicorn from Miami. We don't need to move the entire company, but definitely some parts of the company, we can move them here. So that's the purpose of that Manatech organization. So we bring them to collaborate, connect, raise money, go to market, education, anything that they need. Today we have 35,000 members, and it's incredible. It's just the beginning of the road. Last year we raised from them, from this room, $90 million. And I myself going to put fund also to accelerate some of these companies. The same thing, like I said, culture is important. I call it business with culture. I dedicated the whole building for fashion, because fashion designers have problems. It's costing to do showrooms, material bank, events, and bring Miami to the next fashion, to become a city for fashion, because we're missing this element of fashion. We got 20 million tourists here, 25 million tourists here. We got big population, but we're still very far away from being a city for fashion. And that's what we've been doing with 15, 20,000. They like to tell me 20,000, but it's 15 to 20,000 people. And now we are in process of renovating the building, redo it. I mean, it's going to be magnificent. It's okay. Same thing with arts, bringing artists from all over. Like, how many of you saw the Mona Lisa on the back of the wall here? Okay, what I suggest, when you walk out of that building, we did the largest Mona